Okay.
All right.
All right. So,
Here we are.
what are we going to talk about?
Let's talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
Battleborn Baddies,
Battleborn Baddies.
the merchandise, the people. The people, I know, I'm hung up on the merchandise. The people that we're going to interview and the stories that we're going to be able to share.
So, I did have a question. Are we
Yes.
going to leave it to Nevada, or are we going to open it up to other?
So these are some ideas that we talked about, and we need to get this to Rob because he's working on the website. We don't want to just leave it to Nevada.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though...
Well, we're the Nevada.
Yeah, we're the
Battleborn
baddies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, the Battleborn is obviously Nevada, but Battleborn is kind of something that a lot of people have in them.
Absolutely.
When
You've
they're
been through
just...
a lot of shit.
When they've been through some shit, you're going through the fire, you find out how much grit you have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, as it turns out, we are the Battleborn Baddies.
We are.
We are. So, but one of the things early on that I felt when we were talking about this is like being able to get people to tell their stories, because a lot of times, like, remember when we first started talking about this, we were talking about women just talking like openly about detailed things that we go through, some of the ugly stuff that we don't always want to share, right?
Mm-hmm.
But hasn't it been easier, I have found in my life, when someone is just really open with me about their experiences when I'm going through the fire? I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm not crazy.
Yeah,
yes.
right. Yes.
And so I just kind of wanted to get a platform to share that for women, younger women, and we could share from all ages so that people can go.
Yeah.
And
all
then,
backgrounds.
And even if you're 16 and you're listening to this today, and there's a 50-year-old woman going through menopause, some of this stuff you may retain, right? And you're going to be like, I remember the Battleborn Baddies.
Yeah, because nobody tells you the stuff that you go through later in life when you're 15. You're like, where are these weird gray stubble hairs coming from? Like, what the fuck is that about?
Yes, exactly that.
Told me
exactly that.
Yeah.
And so, and then, as we got to thinking about that, we got a little broader, and there are men that have amazing stories too. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we really decided exactly. I think we're just kind of open, right? To what we're going to do. But I do think that for the majority of it, it really is going to be probably a lot about women. Would you say that too?
Absolutely.
I do too. I think that a lot of women go through things. I think that they don't get heard. And they don't get seen.
Yeah.
And
you feel like you're going through it alone. When we've all kind of gone through a lot of the same stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what, and that's what I'm hoping for it. Yeah. But we come up with the Battleborn Baddies, and that seems like it's going to stick. Mm-hmm. That's a good name.
That's a good name.
So.
Good job. I like it. I think we were going with I don't remember what it was.
Oh, we were going to be salty bitches
first. Yeah, salty bitches.
And then, and then I was talking to my sister about it. Okay, so I'll tell you how this Battleborn Baddies came around. So I had moved over to Fernley for work, right?
Yeah.
And so my little niece, her name is Addie. Her nickname is Addie. And I hope to be able to get her on here someday.
How old is she?
She is 4.
Oh.
And she's a little Gabby Gapster. Yeah. She's got it going on. But so I nicknamed her Batty Addie.
Oh.
And she loved it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so anyways, I was talking to my sister about this, our podcast, what we were going to do and stuff. And then it just crossed my mind. It hit me. The name came before I even thought about how we would formulate the podcast around the name. But I went, Battleborn Baddies.
Yeah.
And so she was like, no, that's good. So that kind of stuck. So That's where we're at, and we are there because we have the name now on the World Wide Web, right?
It's out there.
It's our name now, so that's where it's at. Yes.
Okay. So, and it's not just limited to the state of Nevada.
Right.
It's global even. Not that there's anybody out of the United States that we...
No. But there could be.
There could be. I mean, absolutely. Could you imagine?
Right.
I would love to hear some of those stories.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so literally around the world, like things you wouldn't even imagine. No. And that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Because that's another important thing to remember. When we're going through the fire, we can really get down and out in that moment. But I'm going to bring this up because my dad always said, that his mother always said to him and all of his siblings, but he said it to us, you know, don't cry about not having any shoes. Think of the little boy that has no feet, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
And it's powerful, right?
For
and
sure.
So, I think that it's important for us to remember that too when we're going through the tough times. Absolutely. Like literally it could be worse.
Oh, absolutely. When you feel like this is the worst ever.
Yeah.
But ultimately there's somebody out there that has it
worse.
Way worse.
Worse. Yeah. That you would literally want to stop what you're feeling bad about and probably help them.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. That feels so I'm in such a horrible predicament when in reality sometimes it's really not that bad.
Exactly.
It just feels that bad.
Exactly.
But yeah, so many people have it worse and more obstacles to overcome. Family situations where you think you've had it bad, but there's so many other horrific stories that I can't even, I mean, I know because I heard other stories. You know, I feel like I had specific bad childhood memories. Yeah. But then you hear other people's and I'm like, oh gosh.
Right.
Mine's nothing compared to yours. Yeah. Like I feel stupid, but.
And then what does that do for us too when we learn how to like kind of flip the script and step out of that like negativity that, I mean, it did cause trauma. It did damage us. It did bring out new parts of us that, you know, we had to utilize at that time to survive. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But to be able to look back from a different perspective and be like, you know what? These were good memories though. These were good things. And I'm grateful for this. Well, that just builds us up to be a little, I mean, you know, positive energy feeds off positive energy. It creates more positive energy. And the same with negative. So it's always good to kind of try to focus on the better parts of things. But, and that's one thing that I have learned, just, you know, the same for me, is learning how to like move away from the negativity into something that makes me feel a little more ambitious to like move forward, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And just to dwell on the positive. The other thing I think that is cool, I've noticed for me as a woman, is strength. When I've actually sat down and acknowledged my grit and my strength that I have and the fortitude that I have to bust through some serious shit, I'm like, dude, you're a badass. Yeah. Get it, you know?
Absolutely.
And so it makes you a little more unstoppable and a little more, you know.
And I feel like there's a lot of, because I know these people who just really let it get to them. Yes. And they can't even leave their house or their bed. Right. And I don't understand that.
Right.
Like, why? Why do you allow this to affect you so much that you're so negative about it and turn it into something positive?
And that is probably a lack of understanding, right? Yeah. They've never, I don't know how it happens, but they've never had to lean in on that strength and overcome it, right? Yeah. They found a little comfort zone there, and who knows about all the scientific shit, if it's chemicals or whatever, there's always that. Sure. But once you actually get to where you know the combo to break free from that mindset, I think at one time I lived in that mindset. Yeah. I was in a dark place, like in my early 30s. I lived there for on and off, but one time it hit me really hard and my grandma showed up at my house And I had been in bed for maybe a month. Like, I was toasted. I was done.
God.
And she just was so sweet, but she was so like, my grandma was tough as nails, you know? And she said, she was nice about it, but she said, get out of bed. We're going to the doctor.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? Because you need a happy pill. And she said, because I've been there before and I know, and the doctors will make you feel better. And so I went because you didn't tell grandma no. Right. So I got up, I literally was no energy at all. And I went in there and I did get on an antidepressant and I had a lot of like chronic pain at the same time. So they put me on an antidepressant that helped with pain and depression. And, you know, I made it through that. It got me through that period. I got some new tools to use.
Sure.
And I never, ever had to go get back on anything again.
Right. It'll help you out of a slump for sure.
Yeah.
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 It's there for a reason, not...
Yeah. And one psychiatrist told me once that you can't just use it like that. You have to stay on it forever because there's something chemically. But I see this new guy down here in Reno, and I love him because he comes from a holistic approach, you know, very much like the last thing I want to do is put you on medication. There's 3 pillars to health. There's your social health, the people you hang out with, where you work, things like that, your mental health, and your physical health. And yet all 3 work together, kind of like God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, you know, right?
Yeah, the Trinity, man.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to keep those all even and focused, you know. So he's like, before I ever want to put someone on medication, I really want to take a look at what's your sleep patterns. Do you drink alcohol? Are you recreationally using drugs? What kind of diet do you have? Are you junk food junkie? Like, do you get vitamin D by the sunshine? Or, you know, do you exercise? Who are the people you hang out with? Do you have a support team?
Right. That's so important.
Yeah, it is. And so many times people take their physical health, you know, sometimes people don't even worry about their physical health either. They'll totally neglect that. Major.
Like, how do these people get like 300 or 400 pounds?
Exactly.
Have you seen the movie Whale?
No.
Oh my gosh. So this guy is enormous, right? And it's all because he lost the love of his life, and so he turned to eating, which is a thing. Like,
yes,
it's real. But at one point, like, when do you realize I need to turn this around?
Right.
Like, is it 400 pounds? I mean, this guy had to have been like 600 pounds.
I think it's a part where they don't.
Yeah, it's the depression.
They look back and they say, I got so far to go. I'll never crawl out of this.
Yeah, isn't that sad?
Yeah, because, you know, I've struggled with my weight hard. And when I got Lyme disease and I was so sick, is like literally the only thing that I could do was eat. And I love food anyway. So that became a thing for me. And it was hard. It was hard to make that turnaround. So I imagine people that get to a point where they're immobile. And then, you know, like you watch that Doctor Now.
No.
Oh, what's it called? Like My 600-Pound Life. Have you ever watched that?
I've seen that. I haven't watched it.
Oh, well, these people, you know, these people are so bad that they literally have people that are caring for them because they can't hardly even get out of bed.
Oh my gosh.
So this becomes a thing because the caregiver becomes an enabler.
Yeah.
And they are packing these people what they want.
Yeah, same with the whale.
Exactly. And so then, you know, a lot of times, like, they'll go into this doctor and they'll have to lose the weight to get the surgery and they can't do it. And it's like, he's looking at the mom or whoever the caregiver is like, dude, this is on you as much as it is on them.
Exactly.
So what are you feeding them? And it's wild to listen to their stories, you know, because...
Right. Well, they must feel bad for them, and they just want to make them happy, so they give them whatever they want.
Yeah, I don't know. Or they just don't want to hear them fight, get mad, because I bet you they get mad, you know?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And it would be a tough job. So, yeah, there is that. And so there's that point of, I think people get with anything, alcohol, drugs. Like, I always look at the drug abuse like a loop. I feel like those people get stuck in a loop.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And they're looping, getting high, coming down, being miserable, Okay, they're going to do it. Oops, there's the opportunity. They're hot, And just like Erica, my friend, look at that, in and out of prison her whole entire life.
Right.
Had her daughters addicted to drugs. And would have up to 6 years at a time clean, like because being behind bars or whatever. She couldn't handle herself for 2 months on this, being out. No matter how big of a support team she had, she literally took her life by doing drugs when she knew that her heart was bad. She knew if she chose to do meth, she was going to die. And she
wasn't it her heart that gave out? Wasn't the drugs? I don't know.
No, yeah, she had a bad heart, congestive heart failure, COPD.
Oh my gosh.
Because she smoked that crap her whole life, smoked meth, and destroyed her health, destroyed it, and got back on the meth, and her heart, blew her heart up. So there she was, and the people that loved her, that were fighting for her and her sobriety, she had kind of left us all in the dust, got real quiet and just doing her own thing. And the next thing we know, we get a phone call. She's, in a house doing a bunch of dope with a bunch of tweakers and died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what she wanted?
No.
That's so sad.
I think she hated herself for doing it. Because the first time that she relapsed, when she got out of prison the last time, I was pissed because she had brought it to my place and she had given it to this other guy that was working on the fence there. And I said, you need to find another place to stay. And she cried and she said, I don't think you understand how pissed off I am at myself for what I've done.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, well, and me, I try to be a little positive all the time. I'm like, it's a curse. I'm like, well, everybody's got a relapse. Maybe you got it out of your system.
Right.
So me, I'm like, you relapsed, you got it out of your system. Let's pick up and move forward now.
Right.
But she never really did. She kept, going back with it. And there was a guy that was living on my property and he had some money. She knew that he had the money. He was desperate for a female. And them two collided. And he was,
gosh.
I think, I don't know this for certain, but I think he was letting her buy dope with his money, thinking that they were going to sell some of it and make some money because she was using. And then she went and got both of her grown adult daughters out of rehab and was using with them and died.
Why would you do that with your kids?
Oh,
I've never understood that.
No, I know. And the whole story is and that's another thing that she cried to me about. She said, she told her daughters when they were in rehab that she relapsed. And she says, but don't worry, I'm fine now. And the younger of the two said, I know you're good, Mama, because if you weren't, you'd be busting us out of rehab because you'd want your little ride or dies with you. And she started crying. She goes, can you believe that? How sick is that? That my girls know that if I was doing drugs like that I would get them out of rehab. And when she went to go get them out of rehab, I was like, are you sure you're doing the right thing? And, oh, yeah. Everything was fine, so whatever.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't a week. She was dead within a week.
After getting her girls out?
And
one girl or
two?
Two.
They were both in the same rehab.
Oh, yeah.
Dead in a week. And the guy was living there. And, and he since has moved on. And
what about the girls?
They're still living around there. They're still living there.
Susanville?
Ravendale. Yeah.
Okay.
Ravendale. Yeah, out there in the middle of nowhere where you got two options, out in that country. You're either a rancher or you're hired by a rancher or you're on welfare, dude. That's it.
From the law.
Running from the law. So there's not a lot of options out there. So that's a sad story. That was, a deal that she was never able to overcome.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if depression or antidepressant medication would have helped.
She was on a lot of stuff like that, and I can tell you about this is another thing about her that I love so much is she had such a heart for people who struggled. And she literally wanted to save the world, but she couldn't even save herself, and it was so sad.
Right.
But she literally was always trying to get people into rehab, and the one that needed to go to rehab was her. The federal people, because she was in federal prison the last time, the federal people told her, why aren't you in rehab? And she says, because I don't need to be in rehab, but they should have They kind of missed it there because they had control. Mm-hmm. She was on parole. They could have made her go to rehab and they didn't. Right. And I think like she was really sick from the dope, and they had asked her if she would go to the hospital, but she couldn't go to the hospital because she was on parole. Yeah, she knew. She knew she'd go back to prison, which would have saved her life anyway. So maybe you should go back, you know. Yeah. But she chose to fight it out and die there. But she had a very horrible childhood, and her mother married a tweaker. They did a lot of dope. And he was sexually abusing Erica when she was like 10, 12 years old. Oh my gosh. And so these are her words that she shared with me. And we were going to try to get her, we were just a couple weeks off. I was trying to get her to come over here and spend time with me so that I could video record her story. Yeah. Because I'm like, I want you to put this on TikTok as little segments so that people can listen to this and understand that there is hope. Mm-hmm. She was a little girl without a father. She didn't know her father. This guy comes in, complete narcissist, you know, and treated her like gold. And she told me, she says, at first I loved his attention. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And so nothing was ever too much for him. So basically, even though she was a little girl and he started sleeping with her, she was kind of allowing it because she still liked the attention. Yeah. And then she says it got to the point where she goes, and this is pretty graphic, but there's going to probably be a lot of graphic stuff on this, but she said she covered her face with a pillow one time while he was doing it because she's like, it hit me like, I don't want this. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, no wonder. Well, I mean,
right.
She's just trying to numb the pain.
It literally destroyed, like, it probably destroyed so much of her spirit and just the core of who she was. And I think it shattered her too much to where I noticed one thing, and we were friends for 38 years. Mm-hmm. I met her when I was 12 years old. So I knew this woman inside and out, like everything. And I could see her when she was strong and thriving, and I could see her when she'd begin to come weak and lose track of her identity and who she was. She didn't really have a strong identity of who she was. And she would, when she would fall off of that, I could see like she stopped really caring for herself. Mm-hmm. She was afraid to be too feminine. Like she'd always, her thing was like, fuck it, and she'd just like throw her, blow dry her hair, put on some black eyeliner, and away she'd go, and it was like, stop. Like, fix your... I wonder why. I think it was a like a survival thing that she had done for so many years that she didn't really ever learn how to... She dabbled in learning how to love herself a little bit and really like do self-care, dabbled. But when it would get a little too much, it was just much easier to go back to that Erica character that did the dope, that said fuck it, that didn't care, right, and just ran from it. It was easier that way. And the lady, the federal lady, when I brought her to my place and she stayed on the bond there, she said that, do you know what you're doing? She goes, she has been this woman has had more resources, more rehabilitation, more prison time, more therapy, things that anybody else has ever had in any of my caseloads. There is no rehabilitating her. She has a strong thing in her where she has to break the rules.
Oh my gosh.
She told me that. And I said, no. I've known her since she was 12. She wants to do better. She will do better. Right. I really believe she did. But as it turns out, and I found out, that lady, that she did have to break the rules. She always had to break the rules.
I wonder why.
I don't know what that was. I don't know why. But I'll bet you everywhere she went, she probably pushed. And she was kind of cool that way because, she was never afraid to speak up. She was never afraid to seek like extra help or the extra book or, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was like, I kind of admired that about her. Right. There wasn't anything about her that was going to sit quiet in the back seat. Yeah. But she always focused her attention in the wrong direction. Yes. In the wrong ways.
That's weird. That's how my sister was.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So
she
that
did the same thing, like going through life numbing herself, because I don't know if it was something mentally, which I think it was, and my mom thinks it was. And she'd go through good spurts, like, oh my gosh, she's doing so well. You know, she's going to school, she's exercising, she's eating well, she's losing weight. And then, like, the crash would come. And then everything was a disaster. You wouldn't hear from her. She'd be sleeping on people's couches. I mean, she slept on my couch I don't even know how many times until I finally said no. But it was just ups, real highs and real lows all the time.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. I do, because I wonder if there's like a part of them that gets so far and like they are still so wounded from whatever it is that wounded. Right. That they cannot allow themselves, they will not give themselves permission to keep soaring.
It's crazy.
So they crash land, right? Yeah. Every time.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is what's expected of me.
Right back to the familiar. Well, it's what's familiar.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
That's what we got to always be careful of, you know? The familiarity thing, like me with men that drink alcohol, you know? I've got to absolutely make that like a non-negotiable, because I think that after I spent 20 years in that relationship or in that marriage with Clint, and he was, you know, he was an alcoholic and I was no angel. So I don't want to portray that, you know, I did my fair share of drinking and things too, but that became like a normal environment for me. So like a drunk man or a man with a drinking problem, I knew how to handle that. Wow. So I would accept that, because I could see, and especially after I kind of got my sobriety, I could see like I could manage that situation.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so I kept going back for that. And but somehow or another, like when I was with Dan and his drinking, and I never had a man treat me better than he did. That man loved me. But I was sick of it by then. Like, it was a weird combo with that guy there, because he literally helped me learn how to love myself more than I ever had and accept myself. And like, I mean, he was my biggest cheerleader. If I had a plan, that man was figuring out how to make it happen. Aww. Yeah, no, he was good. He was good for me.
Sweetheart.
But the drinking, I think that it's a weird thing there, because he helped me grow. And then I looked down at him being a drunk and I was like, okay, you know, you need to go to rehab. And he was like, anything, I don't want to lose you. I'll do anything. So we sent him to rehab and he went there, and our work called for us to start back. We were laid off at the time and they called us to start back. And I went, you know, and he would call me every night. You know, we could talk on the phone for like 10 minutes or whatever. And he called and I said, hey, you know, the boss is calling in, like, you know, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm cured. I'm healed. I'm ready to come home. You know, this is like somebody just gave him the key to get out of the gate. He was rocking and rolling. So I picked him up the next day, and he did get out of there a couple weeks early. And so everything was good, and we were getting ready to go back to work. And financially, him and I were like badasses together too. We made so much money, you know.
Wow.
And it was so cool to have a partner like that. And he was always all in, and I had so much help out at the ranch with him, and just the money, finances, all of it. So, but he was home and he started acting kind of dipsy, and I was like, are you drinking? No. And I'm like, you're acting like you're drinking, you know? And, but I didn't really want to believe he was. But I found the vodka bottles underneath the pickup seat.
Oh my God.
So not only was he drinking, but he was drinking and driving. And he wasn't just drinking Keystone Ice anymore.
Yeah, right.
We're drinking vodka now.
Serious, straight vodka.
Yeah. So I lost it. And I was already working that season with him. And I stayed that full season at work. But I told him over and over, if you don't get a handle on this, when this season's over, I'm going back to California, and I'm never coming back again. And so I will. But he kept fumbling. And I was at a place where I was shit full of a drunk man.
Yeah.
I couldn't stomach it. I mean, it wasn't like a thing anymore I could put up with. I couldn't tolerate it. And so when the season left, I left. And he said he was going to get on the antabuse. So, you know, But then he chickened out on that. And he's like, I'm only going to do it if you come back home. And I stood my ground and said, no, you're going to be man enough to take care of your problem. And that's where my guilt lays today, is I wish I would have been a little more helpful to him, because he was always so helpful to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I stood kind of like in this place of tough love, which for me never works out.
Right.
I got tough love with my son. He wound up in prison. And then I got tough love with Dan, and he literally took himself to an early grave with the booze.
Gosh.
So I don't want to do tough love on anybody ever again.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
I don't
but
think
that's how we're raised. That's how I was raised.
Tough love.
Tough love. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Walk it off. Don't be a pussy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's not. It doesn't work.
I don't think so.
It's
either.
not healthy.
I don't think it's healthy.
I mean, I realize it now. When I first became a mom, that's how I was. Like,
yeah, me too.
No, walk it off, suck it up. No emotions.
Yeah.
Stop your crying. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, wow, that was really unhealthy. And it's like the unhealthy things you learn from your parents. It's like it's just a traditional thing, and you gotta snip that in the butt somewhere, man.
Yep, and we learn, huh?
Yeah.
How to, and that's the other thing. Like, I talked with my mom the other day, and I'm like, I'm sick and tired of the attitude of, oh, you want to play tough? I'll match you, off with your head kind of attitude, right?
Yeah.
Because when these people are gone, they're gone.
Yes. Exactly.
And I don't know how to navigate through those situations, but I do know that I really want to explore, like, finding a softer side of myself that's a little more giving and considerate.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
It is hard.
I don't know why it's so hard.
It's hard because I think that we are the type of people that are like, suck it up.
Yeah.
I'm that way with myself.
Me too.
Suck it up.
Like, don't
get up.
Stop it.
Yeah.
You can't cry.
Yeah.
You can't do this.
Yeah.
Nope.
And then, but the truth of the matter is, most of the people aren't that way.
No?
They're not. No, I don't think so.
No shit.
I don't think so.
I thought it was normal.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that we might be a little on the rough side.
Oh.
A little bit hard for some people, and because people are like,
ask my husband. I'm
you're mean.
Walk in the park.
They're like, you're mean. And I'm like, well, don't make me be that way,
Yeah. Don't piss me off and we'll all be fine.
Exactly.
That's how I am. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think, like, with my oldest son, I think that he was, a little, he's a Pisces. He's a soft little guy,
Aww, Yeah.
and he is and he actually just wants to be loved, and he always did.
Right.
And I was, I mean, and think about this, because it was like, a lot of his childhood, part of his childhood, I was single. And I worked on ranches. That's rough. That's rough to raise babies and live like that.
Absolutely.
Out in the middle of nowhere, and your kids are screaming and crying. It's cold. It's dirty. The wind's blowing.
It's no fun for
They're
them.
horseback. You're horseback. I mean, that was a rough life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even, he has no desire to be around a horse to this day because of that. Kind of ruined it for him.
Right.
And I think I was too hard on him. And Matthew, he's more of a, for some reason, just the way he is, but Elijah always liked things clean. He liked it in the city. He liked it organized. And if it wasn't that way, he wasn't okay about it. Like, he wants it that way.
Right.
It has to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthew is more like me, like, we'll get through this. We'll get through this, And so much to the point where, life could become self-destructive, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because maybe the boundaries are
kind of blurred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, probably a good portion of my life, I didn't have a lot of boundaries. I didn't even know. Yeah. I don't think I had enough for myself. I didn't think enough of myself to even think that I deserved to set a boundary for anything. I just had to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to that whole the way we were raised.
Yeah. For sure.
Knock your shit off. Get out there and make it happen kind of thing. And so you don't think of yourself as something that is valuable, right?
No.
And if you, and then there's that fine line. Are you valuable How are you valuable and still humble? Because that's a big deal to me. I always want to be humble. And I always want to treat people kindly.
Me too.
You know,
absolutely.
Up to a point, right? But
Yeah.
then, you know, then you get to that next thing. But so that is kind of, I don't know that I really taught my boys. I'm pretty sure I didn't, you know, how to be humble and how to be not humble. I think my boys knew how to be humble, but how to value yourself. This is your value. You're worthy.
Right.
Like, you know, give yourself permission to do great things. Give yourself permission to achieve your wildest dream. That's all. It's all in you.
Absolutely.
You know, and I didn't do that.
No, me neither. How do you do that? I mean, we weren't taught that.
No, I know.
How do you teach something you don't know?
Exactly. Because I think I'm just now at 50, like starting to wrap my head around these things.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
You know, I mean, and I've had a lot of like do or die moments, you know, where you know, I can remember like, you know, I mean, when I was using drugs and my grandson was being born and I was down in Corning, California, broke off my ass with a pickup and a stock trailer and a whole bunch of panels and no money, out of diesel. I brushed my teeth in the truck stop that morning, and I'm too germophobic for that life, okay? And I looked in the mirror, and I knew this little boy was being born with a disability. I knew I was a piece of shit for not being there, you know, and I looked myself in the mirror, eye-to-eye contact in the mirror, and I was like, is this the grandmother you're going to be to this little boy? Is this the legacy you're going to leave for this child? Or are you going to get your shit together? And I made a promise, like to me, that baby and God that day, like this is where the rubber meets the road. I'm not going to be this person anymore. And so that was literally, we share the same birthday. Like my sobriety birthday is his birthday, the day he was born. Right.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
It's way cool because it's kept me there.
Right.
It's kept me
it's a
solid
reminder.
on it, big time,
right.
big time. And but I like, you know, you can only just like thank God that was the route that I was able to take, you know, because one time Clint told me like, you know, you have a stronger, you know, ability for resolve than a lot of people. You know, he couldn't quit drinking, he couldn't quit chewing, he just, it was his demise too.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know how you show that kindness and that affection and that gentle way with people and not become an enabler, right?
Yeah,
that's all sticky stuff.
I mean, you know, God did it for me. I was a freaking raging alcoholic. Like my friends were talking about having an intervention for me. Like it was bad. It was pretty bad. I don't even want to go into all that. But after my son was born, I mean, I went through some stuff, but I was saved, and it was really weird. I had this experience at church with, I don't know if he was called by God, if he was an angel, or what it was, and it totally like turned my life around.
Wow.
Like I have to live for my son. I can't be stuck in my life not going the way that I want, or the drama that's going on and the turmoil. I mean, and honestly, that's what did it for me. I stopped drinking. Like I left my toxic relationship. I just moved on, and I don't know, like God really pulled me through a lot of stuff. And it was just because I felt like I had to hold myself accountable for the first time, because my parents didn't care. Like they didn't care. They were living their own life. It was basically me raising myself. And now I had a baby, you know, and I had to like figure this all out on my own. And I just like, and my dad actually did help me, because at this time, they were both like, you know, very religious and gave their life to God and all this stuff. So he helped me become saved, actually. And I mean, I'm telling you, it like really turned my life around. I don't know where I would be right now if it weren't for that. I don't want to think. Probably in a really toxic, horrible relationship and probably like drinking myself to death. And that's what my mom did. She was a raging alcoholic, like, her whole life. And then it made me stop and think, like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Like, because I remember going back and thinking all the stuff that, like, I went through with my parents who were alcoholics, sitting in a car outside of a bar waiting for my parents to come out, right? Just, like, all this stuff, and that's not who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm a perfect mom. Of course not. I have my own issues and stuff that I battle with all the time because, how I was raised.
Right.
And I'm trying to, break those generational curses.
Yes.
It's not easy, but I know my kids don't see me as a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm not this totally unreasonable person who tells them to suck it up, you can't cry, you can't show emotion. I allow it, and I don't like make them feel guilty for having an opinion or emotion or anything like that. But,
that is okay. So that's interesting, but the God thing. Tell me about that, because I'm serious. Like, I want to know.
Like what happened?
Well, yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. So I had this neighbor and I was in a bad relationship, but disclaimer, like, we have a really good relationship now, right? We were just bad together.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was really bad. And this neighbor kept telling me to go to church. And so finally one day I sucked it up, and my son was 1 at the time, I think. And I went to this church and I put him in the little daycare thing or whatever there. And I went and sat in the back of the pews at church, and I'm watching, just sitting there. And there was this guy that caught my attention. He was like 1 row to the right ahead of me. And I just kept thinking, I'm like, he looks like a normal guy, I'm like, oh, he's wearing Wranglers. I wonder what he does for a living. And like all these weird thoughts. I'm like, wonder what brought him here anyway. all these, and I'm just like totally concentrated on the guy. And at one time he looked back and I'm like, oh, does he know I'm looking at him? Like, did he see me staring at him? So all this is going on, and the service is over, and I'm leaving and I walk out the door to go get my son out of the nursery, and this guy that I've been staring at from the behind comes up to me. And I can't remember verbatim because this is like 20 years ago. But he says, God told me that I needed to come talk to you, and he's laid it on my heart that you are going through a lot right now. And like everything he said was exactly what I was feeling. He's like, you're like a dove in this cage, and he's opening the door and he's gonna set you free. And like everything he said was exactly how I was feeling inside. Like, exactly. And I'm just like standing there and I'm crying. Like, all this is going on around me, but I'm not paying attention because what this guy is saying was like exactly what was going on in my heart. And I'm just like, okay, all right, whatever. And then he leaves and I go get my son, and now I'm like freaked out. I'm like, how the hell does this guy know?
Right.
Exactly what I'm going through, how I'm feeling, the situation that I'm in, what I'm here for, all this stuff. And I told my dad about it, and he's like, well, he's either really crazy and he's stalking you, or he's an angel that God sent to you. And so I went back to that church for like every Sunday for months, and I never saw the guy again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I swear, I'm like, that changed me. That like was like, God is real. And whether he's an angel or not, obviously he was a real person for sure.
Right.
I don't know. God just put it in his heart to come and talk to me, and he knew, like, whatever God told him or what he was feeling, it was exactly how I was feeling. And I was like a little freaked out by this situation, but it was 100% like what was going on in my life. And it really, and getting myself out of that situation was because of God and that situation and everything around it. And it's what helped
It kind of spurred you on. It gave you a little shot in the arm to keep pursuing
like,
that.
I need to do this. Like, I need to get out of this. Like, this is toxic.
Because you knew you got a word, no matter what. Yeah, and it resonated. And how would that person know that?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It is weird.
I'm like driving home, like, oh, is this guy following me?
Yeah.
Like, this is my first time here.
That is so wild.
Yeah.
So I had this weird thing happen the other day. Now, this is like from the other side of it. So I was coming through Lemon Valley, and I took the Lemon Valley exit. I'm going to Taco Bell right there between Lemon and Golden, okay? And I'm going to grab myself a little dinner. I'm headed to Fernley. And I'm not the type of person that goes around giving money or stuff to the homeless people. I mean, I always feel bad for them, but, I come around the corner there, and this guy's sitting there holding his sign, and it hit me so hard, like God said. Go get $100 out of your bank. $100. It was very clear. Mm-hmm. Order him exactly what you're planning on ordering yourself, because I love those Crunch Wrap deals.
Oh, yeah.
So, I knew full well what I was pulling into Taco Bell to get.
Yeah.
Get him exactly what you're getting yourself. And what to say. Write down what to say to him was like, and I had like this sense of urgency. I can't really describe it, but I knew. The first thing I did was I went down to the U.S. Bank down there, grabbed the $100, went back through Taco Bell, ordered him exactly what I ordered me, right down to the drink. And then I went back up there, and I'm like, if he's not there, I'm going to feel like an idiot, right? So, and this story is kind of funny because I am a crier. I'll cry all the time over dumb shit. But so I pull up next to him, or up behind him, and he turns around and he looks at me, because I was driving the old diesel, and I went like this, and he walked over, and I rolled down the window, and I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, I never do this. God told me to give you $100 and to buy you this meal. Aww. And I'm like, I will probably never see you again, but God loves you, and I'm crying. And he's getting teary, and it gets better. Got a big old felony ring in his nose. Dude's higher than shit, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he's young. And he's a young kid, but he's rough. Like, he's missing teeth, and he's all sunburned up and just fried out, I mean, just rough life. And he's getting teary, and he's like, oh, okay. And I said, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you've been through or what your challenges are, but I'm telling you right now, God is on you. And he wants you, and he's got plans for you, and it's up to you. Aww. And because that's what I was supposed to say.
Yeah.
So and I'm crying the whole time. He's probably like, can you just imagine? Here's your Taco Bell, your $100. Go find God. He said so. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's probably like, whoa. Or it went the totally opposite direction.
So I went by and checked several times to see if he's still there. I've never seen him since. Oh. It's not like I've never been to that. I always check to see if he's there. He's never been there. So I don't know what, but I know that God hit me so hard that day with that. So then, and we always wonder, like, is this me? Am I just being me?
Right.
So I got this other side of this story, and this was me. This wasn't God. So this is pretty wild. In Fernley, I'm coming out of Rayleigh's, and there's this chick sitting there, and she's in a bad spot. You could just tell. And I just had like a $20 bill. I did not have any feel or to do this. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I just did it. So I said, here, I handed it to her. And I didn't even have anything to say to her. I was just kind of, Because the other one, like, God just, like, threw it on my heart. Like, do this, say that, buy this, get this.
That's crazy. Like, okay. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was the coolest. It was the coolest experience ever. Yeah. So I give this chick the $20, right? And I drive off. 2 days later, I'm clear down at the other end of town by the Frosty. And I've never seen this chick before in my life. But she's sitting at the picnic table by the Frosty, and her tongue is out.
Oh my gosh.
And she's just high as shit, just whacked out. Holy crap. And it was like a real moment for me, like, there's the difference.
Yeah.
God literally had a message for that boy.
Right.
And that was what it was. And I probably penetrated on some level, planted the seed.
Hopefully,
it could be 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But
you
this
did your
other,
job.
yeah, this other deal was all me. And I've looked for that boy how many times? I don't find him anywhere.
Right.
I'm not really looking for her. And I find her.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. It's real life shit,
Anyone
though.
bought crack with your $20.
Oh, I totally think she did. I think it was more than crack. She was crack-a-lacking out there. She was messing around out there. It was like, whoa, you know? That's what I thought. Give me my $20 back, you asshole.
I could have bought a beer. Fucking 6-pack.
Oh, but yeah. So, I mean, but this is like real stuff.
Yeah.
And God is real.
God is real.
It's
absolutely.
And it's so cool when you get...
You have like validation, or you feel that in your heart. And you're like, this is God. This is not me. Like, this is not me wanting to do this. You have a feeling that it's coming from God, and you know it.
It's undeniable. It's undeniable.
I know.
And I knew, because I thought, when I gave her the $20, I thought, you know, well, I should help women too. It was all me. It was all Marky. All Marky. And I kept thinking, well, we'll just see, you know. And every experience, though, I'm like, I'm very observant of every step through that experience, right up to 2 days later at the Frosty. I'm like, my God, it was all me. That was all me.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, God did not lay that on my heart to give that woman $20. I took it upon myself to do it. It did her no good at all.
Right.
And when she looked up at me, even, like, this is the weirdest thing, but when that boy looked at me, it was like a spiritual, there was something very spiritual there. I could feel it. And when we made eye contact, I think is when I started crying. When she looked up at me, because she's down there, and it was almost like a fear, like, I mean, she's very rough. They both looked rough looking, but hers was a totally different feeling. It was very weird.
Oh my gosh.
So we get to have that experience sometimes where God really, like...
Oh, absolutely.
Hello.
You know what I don't understand? Is how people get through the death of loved ones without God. Like, how the hell do you get through that? I don't understand that. I will never understand how anyone gets through the death of, like, a child without having God, or you know, no, like, is it just like they have nothing, like I'll never see them again? Like, how does that even work? They just have no hope. Like, they're just gone forever. Can you imagine? No, I couldn't either. That's like you know, like Clint's parents, when you know, their youngest son passed away, oh gosh, 10-15 years ago maybe. You know, Clint and I were kind of newlyweds at that point, and they lost him, and they held on to, you know, they're Jehovah's Witnesses, but, you know, they believe that we'll do paradise on earth. They don't really believe in heaven. It's just paradise on earth. And I'm like, you know, I don't care where we do it. I'm pretty sure God's got it under control. So I don't worry about the details, you know. No religion's doctrine is going to make me or break me. I'm all, God, I'm on your team. Wherever you put us, I'm sure we're going to be. okay with it.
Yeah, right. As long as Satan's like out of the picture, we're golden. But they just held on to that. Like, and in their religion, they believe that, you know, they don't believe in hell, right? Like, God is too much of a loving God to really put us in hell. You just don't exist anymore. You're like basically asleep, gone.
Okay.
And so, but they believe, you know, like we're all, and a lot of religions preach that, right? Where we have that 1,000 years with Jesus, where Satan is like out of the picture.
Right.
And then he comes back, and that's where people are going to make it or break it, right? They're going to choose their side at that point. And so, and you know, I would imagine after 1,000 years of perfection with Jesus, Satan comes back in the picture. I'll bet you.
Be like, I'm going with him.
Yeah,
right?
I would think so. You know, and that's kind of what they teach too. Is like, you know, that's going to be where they're the really dark souls, and there are some out there, but there's,
for sure.
I think a lot more good people on this earth than bad. You know,
so too.
And but anyways, so like when Clint passed away, I think, you know, what a shocker for her, the mother and the father, actually. Like now we've lost both of our children. But they hold on to the fact that while we're still on this earth, we're going to do everything we can to preach the good news, right? They are always, they're old and they're out there standing there with their little magazines and knocking on doors and doing their thing, you know. But they believe with all their hearts that they're going to see their boys and they're not going to be afflicted with drug addiction and alcoholism.
Right.
And those things will be of the past and they will be the boys that they remembered them being when they were little kids.
Right.
So yeah, I hold on to that.
For
like
sure.
Even for me losing Clint and then Dan, I'm like, I lean to those people a lot because they give me their strength and their hope gives me strength and hope. Yeah.
Where would you be otherwise? Like, I couldn't even imagine.
I don't even know.
Oh.
I don't even know.
I don't even know either. So lost and.
Yeah. And for them, for that to be like you said, your children, you know, to lose your child and not have that would just be.
No. I don't know how you get through it.
I don't either. I don't
Honestly.
either. I don't either.
That's horrible.
Horrible stuff.
Because at least in your heart, you know you're going to see him again.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But people who don't believe, it's like they're just gone forever.
They're just gone.
And how do you go on like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
You just, I don't know.
And then there's the little things that happen, you know, that makes you kind of go, when you lose someone, like, I have dreams sometimes. Like, you know, there's been several dreams over the years where Clint comes and, like, talks to me. That's pretty wild to wake up from that.
Wow.
Yeah. And a kid that works at the company that Dan and I used to work at sent me a picture the other day, and it was one of his slips that he filled out at work. And he goes, this has been floating around in the dozer for a while. He goes, I haven't had the heart to throw it away. And I said, oh my God. I said, thank you so much for sharing that with me, because and I was crying, but it made me just like, wow, you know, these little memories, they bubble up sometimes in weird ways.
Oh, yeah.
And you just know.
Yeah.
You just know that they're not here right now, but they're not gone.
Right. No, they're still
I
feel like,
yeah.
And as Christians, we're not supposed to believe in ghosts or spirits, but I don't know, man.
I don't either.
That's bullshit.
I do too.
I really do.
I think sometimes when the dreams, like when I'm asleep and the dreams come and the conversations take place, that I'm like, you know, I believe that he was able to come and visit.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And make and say some I'm sorry's, and in my dreams I'm able to say I'm sorry too for the things that I did wrong.
Right.
And that's important stuff.
Yeah, it's some closure.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because what would it be like if you didn't have that opportunity? You just get to live with that guilt forever.
Yeah, could you imagine?
No.
I mean, and people do.
And they do.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's a lot of stuff like with the religions that where they're like, you know, they want to teach their doctrine and they want to control you. And so don't get too spiritual.
Right.
Because then you won't need us.
Exactly.
But
we got to keep you under our control a little bit. There are religions like that.
The money, the control, the power. Control. Yeah. I believe that completely. And so, you know, and I think if we really tapped into all the spiritual stuff that really takes place, we'd be mind blown.
Oh, I think
right?
So,
if like they talk about that veil, when the veil gets pulled back, we're gonna be like
all that crap, well, there's supposed to be like spirits all around you, you know, and supposedly the veil is thinning, and so people are having more of these spiritual experiences. Yeah. I don't know why the veil would be thinning, but I mean.
And then think about in the Bible, like when Jesus was on earth, and people were being healed, touched and healed,
right?
And they spoke in tongues. They had a lot of miraculous stuff taking place,
for sure.
And it's not so much anymore.
No, I mean, you hear about miracles here and there, but it's not commonplace for sure.
And it says in the Bible that God left the power in each one of us, that the same exact power that rose Jesus from the grave resides in each one of us.
Right.
That means we are powerful.
Yeah, which I think the government purposely feeds us shit, so we aren't able to do that.
That's what I think. I think God sometimes is like, hello, you know,
you can do this.
You can do this. And we're just like, oh, I'm going to go get a bag of Cheetos and cry. I don't know.
I need a beer.
I need a beer. Yeah, exactly. But no, I agree with that. Like, if we really tap into and like manifesting things.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, that is, I've done it. And I've done it too many times.
Yeah, nothing cool. Like, not money or lottery. It's just shitty people. Out, and then they call. I'm like,
oh, no, I've manifested things. I've manifested, yes, real life things. Like my ranch.
No.
Yes, I manifested that.
How?
I set my intentions.
Oh.
I set my intentions and I wanted it.
Yeah.
And everything came in.
Man, I need
to play. And it's wild, but I just manifest because I believe, you know, and people get freaked out about manifesting because they think that's witchcraft.
It's witchcraft, new age stuff. Yeah.
But I don't believe that. Okay, so it's like Reiki. That people think that Reiki is
new age.
And and witchcraft but you know, the same power that rose Jesus from the grave resides in you. So if you're sick and I'm here and we combine our energy together and we use Reiki to get that sickness out of your body in the name of Jesus, what is wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, no, but they don't want you doing that.
No, they don't. No. But, you know, I mean, and it's just things like that. Like just the things that we don't ever give ourselves permission.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To really tap into and explore.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Well, I will say, even as a Christian, I feel like we are programmed to think, oh, you can't go there because maybe because if you do go there, you have more spiritual powers than if you were to kept in this bubble.
Right.
And they don't want you to realize you actually have more power than what they want you to believe you have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm kind of torn between thinking that and, oh, is it really like something like a crystal bed? Have you ever done a crystal bed?
No, but I wanted to.
I did it, and it was the wildest, craziest experience of my life. And I told one of my super Christian friends, and she's like, oh my gosh, you have to go and, you know, do all this stuff so that you're sealed and, you know, demons can enter you that way and all this stuff. And I'm like, what? Seriously? Like, I didn't feel that way when I was going through the experience that I went through. And then I was totally freaked out, like, oh, I'm never going to go back again. Like, demons can enter me. But at the same time, this lady totally read my mind, like everything that was going on in my head at that moment. And I'm like, I get it could be a demon, I suppose. But why would they go through that much trouble? Like, I don't understand, like, what the downside is.
Right. No, I don't. And people get freaked out about the crystals.
Oh,
but you know what? Why did God put them here?
Yeah.
Why do we have them?
Right.
And when they study like the energy of things, they put off a vibration.
Yeah, vibrations are important.
Everything runs on a vibration. Yeah. Everything is based off an energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the houses that are built, those were built off of someone's energy.
Yeah.
Those boards were cut by an energy. Yeah. That the fact that they even grew was an organic energy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like when we start tapping into that, how did I get rid of the Lyme disease? Through the Rife machine, which is frequencies that are coming in, and those frequencies are killing the disease frequencies in your body. Mm-hmm. And if someone would have told me that, oh, you know, just give it, let's see, 2014. So it's been 11 years now since I come down with that. Mm-hmm. And like you met me probably around 2016 or 17, sometime around then.
Yeah.
If someone would have said that I would be doing this well, working like I work, getting around like I get around,
right,
all because of a machine,
yeah,
no I would have been like, you're out of your mind,
Yeah,
because that's
crazy.
bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
But the literal doctors were doing nothing for me.
Oh no, just take the pills, man.
Percocet, gabapentin, and muscle relaxers.
Oh.
That was the cocktail I was prescribed for month after month, year after year.
Yeah.
Gained 70 pounds. Just literally dying on the vine. And finally, I went and was like, I can't. I took the pills back to the doctor's office. I'm not taking this. This is poison. This is going to kill me.
Yeah.
There's literal things about Percocet that you take a Percocet and it'll nod you out. You wake up with a hangover. You need another Percocet.
Oh yeah, it's a wheel.
It's a wheel.
It keeps you craving more.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it is scary, sketchy how fast it works.
Oh, absolutely. They gotta keep you. Although now it's impossible to get. So you go to the streets. Well, I mean, people who are really addicted and can't get it, of course, go to the streets, and it's laced with fentanyl, and they're dying left and right. So they're pushing them to the streets after getting them addicted on these pills, and now they're dying from fentanyl overdoses.
Yeah.
Like, what's the game?
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
So, I think by what we recorded here, we did this for an hour. You know what I felt like while we were doing this?
No.
We probably have like 15 episodes of different things.
Yeah, we can cut it up.
Because we kind of like talked about a lot of different things.
We can make little...
But they're real. They're real things.
Real life shit that everybody...
Yes, that we all go through. And like, you know, how do you deal with some of these things? Where have you felt God? What have you used? And that's what we want from the people. Yeah. To be able to really reach out and tell us how you deal with it, and get into Battleborn Baddies and fill it out and fill out the paperwork there.
And we'll interview you.
Yeah. And we want to hear your story and what you've gone through and how you endured it. So I think that's a good place to end.
I think so.
All right.
Let's get